the Ride With Us podcast, presented by the American Coaster Enthusiasts, the world's largest ride enthusiast organization dedicated to the appreciation, promotion, and preservation of roller coasters around the globe. So please keep your hands and feet inside the podcast at all times as we welcome your host.
Hello, enthusiasts! It's your host, Jessica Gardner. Right now, we are watching the theme park industry evolve in real time. From massive headline-making coaster projects to a growing focus on accessibility, guest experience, and what parks actually need to succeed, there's so much happening behind the scenes that most guests never get to see. And one company that's been right at the center of that conversation is Zamperla. From reimagining one of the most iconic coasters in the world with Top Thrill 2, to developing new coaster technology, expanding their global footprint, and leading the charge in accessible attractions, Zamperla is having a moment. So today, we are diving into all of it, what it actually takes to design and build these rides, the challenges that you don't see, and where the industry is heading next. So joining me to break it all down is Zamperla's roller coaster sales and marketing director, Adam Sandy. Thank you so much for being with us today. How's everything going over there?
Doing good, doing good. You know, spring is starting to poke through. Parks are starting to open. So it feels like that fun time of year when kind of everything's opening up a little bit.
But does that make your job even more stressful, or is it more exciting?
Definitely more exciting. Definitely more exciting. You know, it's always, I will say though, you know, your first day when you open a new coaster is always a nervous day, but our coasters, actually, we have our first one opening on April 4th of this year at Parks Peru. So we got one soon and then a few others later in the year.
Very exciting. For those people who don't know you, I'd love to just get into your background a little bit, tell everybody a little bit about you. Tell me where you grew up and where you live now.
Sure. So I grew up in St. Louis, so, you know, not too far from Six Flags St. Louis or Mid-America back in the day. And then I took a job after I left college with Amusement Business, which is no longer News Weekly that served the amusement industry. And I was there from 01 until 03, and then moved to Maryland in 04, started with Ride Entertainment, and it was with that company through 2020. Obviously, a lot of things happened in 2020, and shocking. And I was just super fortunate that pretty much the day I was able to post online that I'd left, I got a call from Zamperla saying, hey, we're looking for someone to kind of help develop our roller coaster division. You know, we've got the great engineers, but we need sort of someone to help communicate what we're doing and help sort of be the face of it, work with our sales team. And so I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome.
So you took that job and the rest is history. And so
pretty much, yeah.
Your official title now is?
My official title is Roller Coaster Sales and Marketing Director.
And what's like a typical day in your life like?
I mean, there is no typical day, I would say, but I'm super blessed that I get to work with our global sales teams. So I don't just do U.S. projects, whether it's something big happening in Asia or Middle East or wherever that may be. I work with our sales team on that. And then on the engineering side, I am far from an engineer, but we've got amazing engineers on the team. And we talk a lot about new product concepts and developing things and always trying to hit that, you know, balance of creating a great experience while keeping the cost down. So I kind of dance between the engineering team and the sales team and work to bring them together, really.
Amazing. What got you wanting to work in the themed and attractions industry in the first place? Were you a fan of parks growing up?
Oh, 100%. I was a nerdy kid who loved amusement parks. So I tell the story that instead of having pictures of athletes on my walls, I had pictures of, you know, Harry Traver was on my wall. So it's a weird kid,
really?
But really. Yes. I mean, you know, I am part of the pre-internet generation. So my childhood was all, you know, I would get like Ace publications or I would check out a book from the library. And that was really the only way I saw roller coaster stuff, or, you know, occasionally when it was in a popular magazine.
Right. So going on to Zamperla now, when Zamperla approaches a new attraction, what's that process look like? Is it story, mechanics, guest experience? Can you kind of walk us through that?
Sure. I mean, we really think of things, and this is when we're selling too, I'd say like ABC, audience budget capacity. So it's kind of the audience is, are we going to do like a 36-inch height requirement ride, which is more kiddie? Are we doing 42, which is kind of in the middle or broad appeal, or 48-inch? And 48-inch is where you get into the class 5 restraints and more a thrill ride. So once we do that, we also say, okay, with that type of ride, approximately what do we want, the cost basis to be? And obviously that will shift depending on layout and track length, number of trains, but that's kind of a good guideline. And then also just knowing how many people would a client expect to get through per hour on this type of ride. Because some, our kiddie coasters do about 500, but we've got some big concepts that can do 1,500 or 1,800. So it really needs to fit, all three of those things as we come up with a new experience. And then right now we're saying, how do we do something different? Because our ownership is very big into coming up with new concepts that aren't in the market yet. So then what you'll be seeing from us in the future will definitely be rides or coasters that aren't from other competitors, but there's really a new Zamperla concept. And that's what we're really excited about.
Any that you want to share with us?
Not yet. Okay. Not yet. I'm sure there might be an announcement in IAPA or two, but
all right. We love those.
But yeah, our kind of our strategy was really developing, we call our thrill platform the Lightning Train. So it's on Top Thrill 2, it's on the coaster at P&E, Dinosaur DreamWorks in China, and then like the new Double Hearts are all variations of that Lightning Train. But that one, it's very good. I'll say it's very comfortable too. But that only provides, so much differentiators between other great manufacturers in the industry. So the next couple of coasters that we come up with, our goal is really to do something that is very different than what's out there and hopefully just create kind of an iconic Zamperla coaster that's more bespoke to us.
Something, though, besides thrill that I think that when people think of Zamperla, or at least for me, that I've especially thought of in the past 3 years has been accessibility. And speaking of IAPA, of course, the amazing attraction for Morgan's Wonderland. Can you talk a little bit about, was that a shift? Was that something that's always been part of Zamperla? Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So
because it definitely seems like it's like there's thrills and coasters, but then the accessibility side is what you're becoming known for in a way, So can you talk about that balance?
No, definitely. And a lot of that, honestly, goes back to Alberto Zamperla. So before he passed away, we started working with Give Kids the World, and he saw what an impact the rides that we donated there made. And that's when we really had a shift in our thinking about how do we start considering rides that whether we can do roll on, roll off with a wheelchair, or if we can't, improving accessibility. So like pre-COVID, we were doing a lot of things like re-engineering doors. So like most of our family coasters, our twister coasters have door pieces that either come off with our easy key system or hinge open. And that allows riders who are, using a wheelchair to easily transfer in and out of them. And then during COVID, we started thinking about new rides. And a big thing was like with the WINGZ, that, as you mentioned, having attractions that could roll on, roll off. We'd done a few of those, but really was how do we grow that market segment, just because we saw a definite need there from a lot of customers, and not just parks like Morgan's. I mean, Morgan's is an amazing place with a great mission, but we're seeing a lot of our traditional corporate clients also coming to us and saying, how do we accommodate more guests on our attractions?
Yes, I love to hear that. That makes me so happy, for sure. Can you talk a little bit more about WINGZ? Is it WINGZ or WINGZ? Am I saying it right?
At Zamperla, every new ride has to have a Z, kind of an unwritten rule. So it is regular, pronounced like with an S, but has a Z, so WINGZ.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clearing that up. Somehow I just got that. I don't know how I didn't get that previously, but that makes a lot of sense. We had a fan question. Someone from ACE reached out and said they wanted to have you explain how the attraction works with securing the rider and talk a little bit more about the interact element of that attraction.
Sure. So, the restraints are very straightforward. So if you're in a traditional seat, you have a belt. And that's adopted from some other flat rides that we have. If you are in a wheelchair, it's a little different. So we actually move the seat out of the way, and then the wheelchair user is rolled on, and then the chair is secured also. So that just depends if they're in the seat or the wheelchair. But the idea is for who has ever in the ride to have the same experience. So they're going to have that ability of the same interactivity. And the interactive system itself is something that we looked at a few off-the-shelf technologies and kind of modified one slightly. The big challenge was for outdoor interactivity, you have to make it work in day, night, rain, fog, kind of any weather condition, and also sun. And that was a really big challenge, is how do we get that visual monitor that is doing motion detection to work in all those different environments? But through about 18 months of trial and error, we're able to find something, and that's kind of become the standard interactive piece on the ride. And the other unique part of it is actually the lifting system. So you might think it's just a traditional like winch, but it's actually, we took brushless motors from the elevator industry and brought them into the rides. They're DC brushless motors. And that's why when you rode on it, if you notice, it's very responsive. Like you flap your hands a little bit and it moves. And, exactly. And so that was a big part of it, is these motors are very responsive. And so we've got one per vehicle. So you get a really great ride, because I don't like interactive rides when, you do something, but the ride doesn't respond.
It doesn't work. Yeah, it's so
exactly. We wanted to make sure that WINGZ responded to riders, especially kids, because they're so used to, through electronics or other things, having interactive experiences. It's got to speak back to them if you do that input.
Fascinating. Do you think that we'll see more of these? I mean, they're ultra accessible. Do you think that we'll see more of these being put into parks, or more rides like this with this kind of accessibility being put into parks?
Oh, for sure. We've like WINGZ definitely sparked a lot of interest, and we've had a lot of conversations about that. But even if WINGZ is not maybe the right ride for the client, it opens the door to have that conversation about other rides, like we have the Magic Bikes or Happy Swing or others that can do wheelchair accommodation. And so it's more just a starting point for conversation to see what ride might fit them the best for what they're looking for.
Is there an attraction that you're personally the most proud of since you've started working with Zamperla?
I mean, I have to say Top Thrill 2 for us. I mean, just having a unique project like that, where it was taking an older ride from another manufacturer, integrating our new technology into it. I mean, it was about a 2.5-year project, and I'm really just amazed at what our engineers pulled off. It's really a testament to all the great talent the company's pulled together, because we actually have a roller coaster business unit and 25 engineers just dedicated to coasters. So that's all they focus on. And this was obviously our biggest project ever.
Do you remember your first time getting to ride it?
I do. I got to ride it on Media Day, and I didn't ride it for a while just because I was so in awe that we were finally there. And, I've been very fortunate to be a part of a lot of roller coaster projects over the years, but never something that big and that intimidating and that fast. So it was just super cool to stand and watch all the fans, a lot of coaster fans there, but also just traditional media. The coaster fans were loving it, and the traditional media people were scared. So it was a really nice combination.
Top Thrill 2, such a cutting edge attraction, such a cutting edge ride, really pushing the limits of launch systems. What are some challenges that aren't always visible to guests? How does the team navigate that over time?
Yeah, really, I think one of the biggest challenges on that specific installation was space, just because on the one end where the top hat is, that was pretty much as far as it could go down. When they did the original installation in 2003, they pushed it down to that end of the midway. And at the other end, we had Iron Dragon. So that's when we had to figure out, how do we work around Iron Dragon? So that's why the spike is placed where it is, because it fit the energy profile. And then we had to do a lot of custom supports to work completely around Iron Dragon. And then the other challenge is bringing all the pieces in, just because the ride is so big. We were picking very large pieces of column and track up, and it's hard enough to do in an open field, but let alone when you're at Cedar Point, you got Power Tower there, Iron Dragon, the B&M Floorless, there's a lot of stuff in the immediate area. So it's a real challenge to do that and add in the wind too, because the wind at 400 feet moves a lot faster than on the ground. And so we had to make sure we had days we get a lot of work in. So it's just all those little things that, no one thinks about, but, our team like Chris and Dino, who are our guys on site, have to really consider every day. And they're the ones who are working, they're up at 6 a.m, if not earlier, to start work and work like 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day to get pieces in as much as they can.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure that can be really overwhelming. Do you feel like, this is maybe a broader question than even that you might know the answer, but it brings to mind, I wonder, do you think that we are at a point where innovation could potentially be happening faster than operations can actually keep up with?
I think on the innovation side that probably not, because when it comes to like riding positions or ride styles, we have to do so much upfront R&D work that even though you see us roll something out, there's a good chance that we've been working on that internally for whether it's months or years. Even WINGZ was a couple year process, and that's just a flat ride. So, we're basically trying to take the newest technology we can when we come up with a ride and use it right away. But even then, we do have a touch of obsolescence sometimes from the time we conceive it to actually bring it to market. That's actually been a big challenge with like coaster control systems, because they started in I think Space Mountain might have been one of the first, if not the first, to have a computer control system. And so you think about the advance in technology we're seeing now, that means that like really sometimes a 5 or 10-year-old coaster might need a new control system just because the components they're using can be, not available from the manufacturer anymore. So that is a challenge that they didn't have when it was like big old brake lever days, is all these special components you have to think of.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, absolutely. How closely do you work with the parks personally and are you there during the design process, or are you kind of there at the end of things?
So the way we work is I'm there, and our team, not just me, is, they're kind of upfront as we, present. So sometimes it's an RFP, request for proposal, where they say, hey, we're looking for this type of ride. Would you like to submit? Other times it's they just come to us because of the relationship, or they just know we have a ride that like fits their space. And so we're kind of involved a lot on the front end. In the middle, it's sort of, sometimes it's custom design work, like TT2 was all, custom design for all the new pieces. Or if it's like the double heart, we've done 3 of those now. So like our third one, we're reviewing the engineering for the site conditions specifically, but we're not engineering a whole new coaster. So that can take different amounts of time. And then, definitely our sales team, myself, are involved as we watch it being handed over for commissioning and getting ready to ride. And yeah, I always love being there opening day and just seeing people get off the ride super happy. I mean, that is the best for me.
I have a fan question from an ACE member about the nebulas, which have been popping up everywhere in parks. Any plans to expand that model?
That's definitely something we've talked about. Because the Nebulous has 32 people instant capacity. So we've definitely talked a lot internally about how do we take that same crazy shape and crazy motion and up the capacity somewhat. So it wouldn't surprise me if you hear a bit more from us in the coming years on that.
It's just so fun. Every time I turn around, I feel like there's another one popping up in a park. It's great to hear because it's a great attraction and it fits in a good space. But yeah, I could see that potentially being bigger. So great question. Thank you for that. That was from Corey. Thanks, Corey. Let's talk about, before we get into the Zamperla anniversary, any plans for the 100-year anniversary of the Cyclone?
I know that I don't know the specifics, but I do know that the park is doing a lot. Obviously, the Cyclone, for those who don't know, is owned by the city of New York, and our team, we operate Luna Park and also operate the Cyclone. So it's kind of an honor to have a coaster treasure like that under our purview. But they have not released everything to the public yet, but I knew though there are some surprises planned around that birthday.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. And so now tell everybody about the Zamperla anniversary.
Yeah, so we're actually celebrating 60 years this year, which is really exciting. The company started pretty much in a garage with a dirt floor with Antonio Zamperla Sr. making attractions. And then we've grown to this company that has about, 400, 425 employees, globally. So it's really amazing to see how far the company has come. And the fact that we're working with kind of everybody, whether it's small parks or Disney Universal and everyone in between, it's very hard to go to a park and not see a Zamperla ride. And we're really proud of that lineage.
That's amazing. So any party plans or what's?
we are having a party.
Merch? Any merch?
No merch yet.
Oh, darn. I love merch.
But we are inviting a lot of our clients this fall to come to the factory and having a party, and more importantly, kind of letting them see behind the doors, because so often it's our sales team going out and talking to clients, but they don't get to come to our facility that often. So we think it's really important whether they want to see our artistic department. We've got 7 artists working on all the rides, a roller coaster business unit, or a prototyping unit, and really understand how a lot of the things we do are made. It's really neat. And everybody that comes to our place in Vicenza, Italy, leaves with a very different perception of the company. It's because a lot of people think, oh, you guys do kiddie rides, or, you make flat rides like the Nebulous, but we've actually got about, I think, 60 rides in the portfolio and almost 6,000 rides running globally. So we have a lot out there, and there are just so many moving pieces to keep all of it running, from finding spare parts from rides that are 40 years old and engineering new coasters. Just, it's an amazing amount of talent in Vicenza.
Tell me more about the coasters. I want to hear about the expanding coaster innovations and divisions. What can you tell me?
So there, yeah, the big thing is that I know probably a lot of people heard about us during Top Thrill 2, and like that was, oh, Zamperla is doing big coasters. But this was actually something set in motion in about 2015. So that year we opened our first two junior coasters. The year after, we got the contract for the Super Twister at Warner Brothers World in Abu Dhabi. And that was a really big project for us. Then 2019, we opened the factory coaster in China, which was similar, I'd say, to the Mummy in concept. 2020, we opened a coaster at Ferrari World. So we had all these building blocks, and that allowed us to, in 2021, announce the concept of the Family Throw launch. That year, we announced the concept of the Double Heart. And that year also, we had people on our coaster seat, the Lightning Train at IAAPA. And so I think that was the first year where we started to see a perception shift of, oh, Zamperla is not just making kiddie coasters anymore. They're here to play. And so that was the first iteration. And since then, our ownership has really invested in talent. We've got a lot of young, great engineers, but also technology, where we're using AI and other kind of cutting edge tech in the ride design, not as the primary driver, but to augment our engineering. So it's worked out really well. And a lot of our clients who come see us are just surprised at the amount of tech heavy investment we've made in coaster design.
Okay. But I feel like parks are leaning more towards family coasters and reaching out more about family rides. Do you think that there's going to be a shift potentially? Or, I mean, people are always going to want thrill rides. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, because I'd say the last maybe 25 years, we saw a ton of investment for coasters at either end of the spectrum. Just like you said, we saw kiddie stuff that is small, 36 inches to ride, or the Top Thrill 2's King to Cause the World. But in the middle, there wasn't a whole lot. And like Dollywood and Vekoma did a great job with Big Bear on that project. We're doing something similar at Parc Spirou in France with our Family Throw launch, and that's 42 inches to ride. So kind of that broad appeal coaster. And this one has two launches, dead end spike. The last car is actually facing backwards. So it's a lot of unique features put into a ride. And I always say that like the classic aero mine trains of the 60s, 70s, 80s were great. But if you're going to make that investment now, we really feel you should have other things that you can sell, because putting in a traditional mine train is fun, but that's really hard for the marketing team to push as new and different, right? So with something like the Family Throw launch, where we have our client in France can say, it's got two launches, you do about a third of the ride backwards, and it's a really different experience, that helps them sell tickets up front. And then you get a great ride to boot. So I do think you're right that the family coasters are a big deal, but it's really creating now attractions that are great experiences, not just, oh, let's put in a coaster at 42 inches with 3 lifts on it. It's, let's give them a great coaster, but let's let it have a broad appeal height requirement.
This is kind of a deep cut question, but are there any new ride systems or track vehicle concepts that you think are going to define the next decade?
I don't know about the next decade. I can say like right now we actually have a patented track system that we're deploying on like the Double Heart and others. So it's called our BBZ track. And the big difference on that is, historically we had a challenge, and I think a lot of manufacturers did, of, the two running rails where the wheels are, that's the most critical point, right? So you have to hold those coordinates during fabrication. We had some challenges sometime where those would be pulled by the track backbone, and we just weren't as precise as we wanted to be. But now with our new manufacturing design process, we actually hold those coordinates perfectly throughout the entire fabrication process. So we can manipulate the backbone and have it work in a few different ways, so we're not worried about it affecting the track coordinates. And that's why I think if you ride, I've been on the ride at Parc Spirou. It's the smoothest Zamperla coaster we've ever done, and I think the Double Hearts are going to be the same way.
How do you approach smoothness and ride comfort in a Zamperla design?
It's certainly different than it used to be. We used to really think of them more as flat rides. Honestly, we did
Yeah.
not. We had like rides like the Volare, which was not the most fun coaster. But mechanically amazing. Like the people who own them liked them because they could turn it on, worked really well. It was a good piece of equipment, but the ride experience wasn't great. In our minds, we were thinking of let's get them from A to B. And now we understand we need to give them a show, right? It needs to be a great experience from A to B. That's such a critical part of coaster design. And we're really doing a much better job creating great experiences paired with that, good fabrication quality.
What would you say makes a Zamperla coaster unique compared to other manufacturers?
That's honestly a really hard question because
Right?
there are a lot of great ride manufacturers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of great ride manufacturers out there. I think one thing for me is two things I'd say are actually have nothing to do with the design at all. And the first one is that we have people like Chris Tobin, Dino Camello, who are field guys. Chris is actually in South Korea right now installing the double heart. So we've kind of grown this great team of people that can put the rides together really well. And what I mean by that is, it's one thing to design a great ride, then to fabricate it. But for like Top Thrill 2 and other projects, we're doing on-site surveys to make sure we're holding the coordinates on site so that even if a foundation's off by a couple of millimeters or centimeters, we're going to know that and be able to fix it. So we have people who just really know how to put together big steel really well, and also how to coordinate, all the teams, the crane, the installation team, and all that. Because usually on a coaster, we provide supervision. We don't actually do the work kind of ourselves. So we're really having to teach people and work hand in hand with them to make sure that they understand how all this complicated machinery goes together. Because for something like Top Thrill 2 or the coaster at P&E, those are coasters no one had ever seen before. A lot of coasters, even if the technology is the same, it's still a prototype if you're doing a new layout. So I think that's really important. And then the other thing is after sales. So one area where we've invested a lot is making sure that our existing clients are happy, always good, right? So for our after sales, we've developed actually a portal system similar to Amazon where you can go in, and if you have service questions or if you're waiting on spare parts, it's all there. And we're assembling a team to really work with that much better. So, because before it was, used to back in the day, it was you call because you needed spare parts and then you would email. But just having 6,000 rides around the globe, it can get really complicated sometimes to make sure we respond to everyone quickly. But putting all this money into creating these new systems really helps us track things better. And also let the client understand that, okay, like 90% of your orders ship from Italy, good to go, but we're waiting on this one piece. We'll send it air freight after you get everything else, So I think those are things that when someone's thinking about buying a coaster, it's certainly, do I want to buy a great ride? Yes. But you also want to make sure that you're buying a piece of equipment that you have a partner that will work to take care of it for 50 or 60 years, because our rides are built to last.
I've been on enough maintenance tours now at parks to know how important that is to maintenance teams, for sure. And they're not afraid to tell you who they're happy to work with and who they're not.
Oh yeah, no, 100%, 100%.
So that sounds like a great idea. I mean, why not? If the technology is there, that way you're not having to wait for a phone call back in the middle of an operations day, or depending on different hours of. Depending on where someone's located in Europe or, time zones and all of that. So that makes a lot of sense and makes riders happy too.
Yeah. And we've actually reorganized our whole after sales too. So we've got after sales offices in the UAE, the US, China, and Italy. So that, and the Philippines. So like if you're in the US, our office may be closed on July 4th, but obviously parks are busy on July 4th. But we've got people in Italy or China that are service techs that can help if there's a problem. So it really helps cover those Christmas times or Chinese New Year when the office may be closed, but we know our clients need help. They've pretty much got 365-day service each year.
I want to ask you, since we're talking about parks, you've clearly traveled a lot and you've been to parks all over the world. Is there a park that is doing something interesting right now that you're excited about? Or a park going in a certain direction that you're excited about?
I mean, I guess there's a lot of different answers I could give you on that one. I mean, the easy one I think for me is Tokyo Disney Sea. just they do so many things right. I've the theming, the storytelling, the attention to detail there, and the fact that it definitely feels like a Disney park and feels like other Disney parks, but certainly stand on its own is very unique. Is something I've always enjoyed. I've got to visit twice now, and just had a fantastic visit each time I've gone.
Nice. So is that your favorite park?
I would say so. Yeah. Like just as an experience, or if I'm going to spend a day somewhere, yeah, it's probably Tokyo Disney Sea.
And how about, is there a park you'd love to get your hands on and redesign or add some fun things to?
I will say like the Williamsburg Park has always had a soft place in my heart. So my dad worked for Anheuser-Busch his whole career. So our family trips were, going to SeaWorld or Busch Gardens parks. Yeah. It's like, well, we got free tickets. That's where we're going. So
that's cool.
I would, yeah, no, it was great. It was really nice. And so that's certainly a park where I'd love to do something. I just think the topography there, it's so beautiful. And they've just got a really great ride collection. So I'd love to work with them sometime on creating something custom for the property, because it's just, I think it's a great park, and it just kind of holds a special place in my heart too.
I love that answer. That's such a great park, and I agree. Mm-hmm. How about, this is just for fun. Zamperla says, you know what, Adam, here you go. You take the reins. You get to design one ride or redesign something with absolutely no limitations and budget. Like, is there something that for you has that place in your heart?
Redesign something. I think I would like to tweak our junior coaster a bit and push it a bit more. Cause like you said, family coasters, kind of that, under 42 inches ride demo is really important right now. So I'd like to see, can we add a launch to that, or can we somehow make it a bit more aggressive? So like it's really good right now, and it's worked really well with our integrated rides, but I'd like to see if we can kind of pep it up a little bit, get rid of a little bit of the fiberglass, make it a little more sleek, make it a little more sexy, make it, and just a bit more fun ride. So I'd love to do that if I ever got the chance.
Oh, all right. That sounds fun. And safe. I think that's a safe answer. Safe but fun. I like it. Anything coming up from Zamperla that you're excited for the enthusiasts, things that you want the enthusiasts that are listening right now to know?
Yeah, I'd say that the two big things are like that. A lot of the projects we're opening this year, I can only talk about Sparoo, but we've got a couple other coaster projects we'll hear about, are our integrated rides packages. So those are a coaster from us, but also 2 or 3 rides sprinkled into the layout, actually. So we've been designing a lot of our, 36-inch or 42-inch coasters to accommodate other rides. And it's worked out really well, because like at Ferrari World, that was our first one. And so the park came to us and said, we've got this corner of the park. We don't have a kiddie coaster. What can you guys do there? But instead of just plopping down a kiddie coaster, we custom designed a junior coaster for the site and actually kept the station about 15 feet above ground level. So after that, we put 3 rides designed into the area. So they're getting about 1,500 people per hour with this whole investment. It's not a huge investment, relative to a big new coaster. So you're getting coaster capacity, but you're getting 4 rides out of it. And the park loves it because they have the family come, they ride each ride once, and then they ride the coaster again, and then they ride one of their favorite flat ride again. So they're getting about a 90-minute, 2-hour stay in that area of the park from a family, and then they're eating at the concession stand next door. So obviously, anytime a park can up their F&B, their food and beverage, they're always happy about that. So we've really seen kind of a direct result of whether it's rides like the Nebulous that really engage guests, or rides like integrated rides, they're having a direct payback on park's bottom line. And that's something that we're really seeing a lot of feedback on.
Nice. Okay, good to know. And as an industry partner to the American Coaster Enthusiasts, and thank you so much for that. And I know you've been a fan of ACE for a long time yourself. How can you see, are there any ways that ACE can support Zamperla and the parks where your attractions are? I guess the question is there anything that you'd like ACE or our members to do for you?
I'd say honestly already doing it. And a big part of that is, I love how ACE members, if you're at a media day or something, you're always talking about the great things about a ride, because a lot of ACE people understand that while a lot of us would like every coaster to be a couple 100 feet tall and go super fast, from a business standpoint, that doesn't exist. So I do love the fact that, when ACE members are at media days and talking about the coaster, they're just saying what a great ride it is because it fills this hole in the park and makes this part of the guest that comes to a property happy. It's not like, oh, this ride stinks because it's not going to 200 miles an hour. So I just appreciate the fact that they, while they'd always like a bigger coaster, we all would, they also respect the fact that this is a business and understand that there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to a coaster, because even a small coaster is over like $1 million investment. And it's a big chunk for a park to do, whether you're a small family park or, Six Flags.
That's a great answer. And yes, it's true. In every enthusiast heart, there's the part of us that are like, we want the giga, but what does this park actually need? Mm-hmm. Yes, what we need versus what the park actually needs. It's always certainly a balance. So yeah, I think more and more we get that. And so thanks for validating that for me. I appreciate it. And then finally, where can we listeners who are fans of Zamperla, where can they keep up with the latest projects? Is there social media that they should be following, or?
Yeah, so there are a couple places. So Zamperla Rides is our main account. And then we also have Zamperla Coasters, which is just more dedicated to our roller coaster business unit. And then also we've updated our website in the last year where we have a lot of different concept layouts up there and a lot of new information. So it's compared to like 2 years ago, even, it's a much better place to go to really find out all the different models we have. Because as I said, a lot of people think of us as like, oh, they make the family coaster, the twister coaster. But I think we've got maybe 10 or 11 different models up there with different layouts for each. So there's a whole lot of things that we're into that a lot of people may not be aware of.
But where's the merch? No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. We just love coaster merch, all the coaster merch, all the
I know.
Or is that just me? Maybe it's just me. And Adam, you know what? One more question that I have to ask, just because you're so great and clearly an enthusiast like all of us listening here. If someone wanted to have a job like yours, if someone listening right now is like, wow, that he's living the dream, what advice would you give to them?
I think it depends on what route you're going. So like there are two routes. So like there's sort of the non-engineering and the engineering. For the engineering route, it's definitely mechanical, structural, electrical. And I always recommend for people who are like, I really want to, design coasters or be a part of that, go work in a parks maintenance department. Like there's so often a disconnect between what an engineer puts on their drawings and what actually happens in the field, that it's a really good education on understanding rides and coasters. And also, you get to work on, if you're at Kennywood, you're working on stuff that's over 100 years old, but also was installed last year. And I think that's really cool to see different generations and iterations of technology. That's actually something that as a company, we've, I think, done a good job of putting our engineers out in the field and having them problem solve so that they can take that experience back. And it's all just not all theoretical. There's a lot of practical experience. For the kind of non-engineering side, it's definitely more challenging. I talk to, I want to say kids, they're not kids, but I feel old sometimes at IAPA.
They're all kids.
But I think it's great. There are a ton of young people who want to get into the industry. But I think it's really actually more challenging than when I was a kid, because there are so many, you have like UCF with a college program and a lot of kids who are very focused on getting in the industry. There's just a lot more competition. One thing is definitely, I'd say, following like Blue Loop or IAPA of their news feeds and really starting to understand and think about the business side of kind of our world, because again, we all want that 400-foot coaster, but it doesn't always make sense. So really understanding like why a park will choose a ride, why it makes sense. Again, demographics are huge. Who are they serving and why is that important? Because if you're making a ride for 13 or 14-year-olds, they tend not to have any money in their pockets. While if you get something for kids 10 and under, they're with their parents and do. So kind of understanding that, and then also bringing in new technology. Like I don't like to blanket everything with AI and AI sells everything, but there are some specific AI applications that'll work in our industry. But just lighting, computer controls. There are so many things that have changed, and also so many kind of ancillary businesses. If you go to Orlando, there are not just ride manufacturers and parks, there are people that design theming, there are people that design lighting. So you may not get to work in a park or manufacturer right away, but there are definitely ways to get into the industry and then work your way to that manufacturer, kind of your dream job that you've had.
Amazing. That's such a great and thorough answer. Thank you so much for that. And thank you
Sure.
so much for this amazing interview today. It was so great talking to you. And you're not in a suit at IAPA. You're just chilling at home talking about coasters. You're always so Mr. Business at IAPA. So it was really great getting the chance to talk to you today. Thank you so much, Adam. And
Thank you.
Good luck with everything this year and with the anniversary.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
And the company really appreciates you having us on. So, and thank you to ACE for being big supporters of Zamperla over the years too.
Thank you again to our guest, Adam Sandy, and thank you to all of you for listening. Don't forget to check our website, ridewithace.com, and remember that ACE is everywhere you consume your social media, so make sure you're following and subscribed to all of ACE's pages. Follow ACE everywhere to stay on top of all of the Zamperla and coaster and park news coming out, and to hear what your ACE membership has to offer. Thanks for listening. Hope you get to ride a coaster today.
Ride With Us is produced by the American Coaster Enthusiasts, a registered 501c3 organization. And we will see you at the parks.